in the day, their sewer drain broke up Livermore. And I think they had a tile or something.
Well, you do one if you want.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Possum came up in the commode.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just wild ivy, outside ivy. And it's rooted in the bottom. And then I took all the leaves off. Those leaves have grown again. I need to take them back off again. On the stem part. And then you wrap it around the ball. And there's sphagnum moss on that ball also. And I spray that every once in a while to get a little extra moisture. And eventually it'll grow more. It's grown quite a bit since I fixed it.
And you drop your hands a little bit.
I know, I've seen it.
No, this is going to put them out on the leg a little bit more. I was getting them. I want them not. Let's see. Okay, that's good. Yeah, right there is fine.
And I can't catch it all.
Okay, y'all.
Mom, you might tip your head down. Well, I know that Mama tells me frequently you wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and they want to talk then, all about when you were a kid. So pretend it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're stressed out.
Daddy, tell us about the first time you saw Mama.
He can't tell you like he tells me.
It was about a year. The first year we lived out here. There was a sale down there where
No, dear, Livermore Hall and Cole, you saw me first.
Well, no.
Okay, all right.
Down there.
All right.
He just couldn't tell you about seeing you this time.
And there was a sale down there where Edward County lived. So we went, me and Pelt and Booster went down there and drove the old car down there, sale. And a guy Humphreys went to their car. And they was down there. Of course, Guy Humphrey, he's always feisting around girls and just anybody
But you didn't do that.
No, I didn't. I was outside. And I'm her, of course, she's feisting around too.
Yeah.
And her and another girl down there, you know her long, was in there in the house. And they got the scuffle and running around in there, and broke a window light out.
Guys,
I haven't heard that, Mama.
And that was the first time I ever remember. She had black pigtails about that long hanging down her back. And that's the first time I remember
How old
seeing her.
was she then?
Oh,
I wasn't about 10.
I was 15.
Well, I guess I was 11 then.
Well, then she was young enough to feist around then. Okay, when's this next time you saw?
Well, see, they moved to Livermore then.
Did you remember seeing him at that time?
How old was you then when you lived in Livermore?
12.
And they moved to Livermore, and of course I was home cold, and she's going back and forth from school, when I'd be going along the street up there, and I seen her and Roy Allen, and I guess John Leslie too, walking home from school.
When you were driving the team?
Driving the team away. Of course, she didn't even notice me, but I saw her.
And he kept in touch with me every time he goes somewhere. He'd look for me until he began going with me. If you'll be honest, that's what he'll tell you. He, everywhere he'd go, where he'd think I might be, he'd look for me. Of course, I didn't know he was looking for me.
And
you weren't looking for him yet?
No.
Of course, I got me a horse and buggy then, when I was about 17 or 18.
Was that old Dolly still, or was that another
No,
one?
I had a Pearl. It was great.
Dapple gray.
Pearl. After Mama.
Did you name her Pearl?
Did you name her Pearl?
No, she was named before we moved. She was just a 2-year-old colt when we moved from over Davis County. But anyway, that's the horse I was driving, and so I was down to Richard's church, just looking around,
Trying to find a girl.
Well, one time I was down there, and she come out the church door before the church started. She come out, and she's talking out, and me and some other boy, I don't remember now, maybe Gordon Brown or somebody there with me. And here she come out there and was talking to me. Her mother come out there and got her by the arms, took her back in the church.
Now, how old were you all then?
Yeah, I met when I was 11.
No,
got
you were
14.
born then. I didn't
Yeah,
get no buggy till I was about 18 years old.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that-
17 or 18, yeah.
See, I'd been 14 then.
And I was down there another time and asked her if I could take her home. And of course she let me. then
Mammy
about-
wasn't there then. Mammy wasn't there then.
Oh, no, I don't guess Mammy was there. And then about a week or two after that, or maybe it might have been 6 months, I asked her again. Said, no, she come with Catherine and Paul's, and they feel bad about it, so.
They come with me so I could come. They walked with me so I wouldn't be afraid to come at night. And that's what I told them.
And so, she wasn't willing to go with me then. And then another time, she went visiting out here at Knuckles, and her and Bertie rode a train into Livermore, and on Sunday evening, and John Leslie, he rode his horse up there,
You didn't have a buggy.
and he didn't have a buggy then, and he was walking home, and they was walking down that right below Livermore on that old road, and me and Orville Hicks coming along my buggy, and Irene Miller, well, she said she don't remember how come Irene Temple would be there. But Irene Temple was there, and her and Irene walked way ahead of them then. And so me and Orville, we stopped, and one of they was going to ride with us, you know. And so that they was going to sit in each other's, the girls were going to sit in each other's lap, and me and Orville sat the other. So got in the buggy. John S. Holland told her, I prefer you get out of the buggy. She argued with him a little bit, but wasn't no blood time. She got out of it.
Well, but now,
And I thought then, well, they didn't want to go with me, you know. And he was just saying that to keep her from going with me.
You sprayed track for a long time.
well, now the train, you said, did you take it from Knuckles to Livermore?
Yeah, train from Knuckles to Livermore.
Did you?
And walked as far as we got off the train up to Edith Wilson's house as we would have walked to Livermore.
From Knuckles.
What did it cost you to ride the train?
Oh, about 15 cents, something like that.
And then in the meantime, I got to went with Josephine Porter a few times.
Well, I didn't know you had another girlfriend, Daddy.
You didn't?
Several.
And they was this, her and Bess Lou, Bess Lou, she'd been married and she was divorced. And they was just using me to have somebody to go with. And J.P. Hatfield and Homer Troutman come in there and sit down with them. And they talked to them boys all the time.
You see how they's using him, don't you?
And I was just sitting there, and that's the last time they used me. I didn't take him no more.
Did you leave them? Did you take them home that night?
Yeah, I went and took them home that night. But I didn't make no other date with them.
Then when did you find Mama again?
Well, then in the meantime, I went from the Nora Hicks son.
Oh, yes, I think you did that, yeah.
And so Mr. George Hicks wanted me to help him haul. He always had a whole lot of hay. And he had me and Stanley Kirkland. Stanley had a wagon, I had a wagon. And so we was helping him hauling hay. In the meantime, I was going with Lenore son. And Lenore and Mo Hicks, that's Russell's wife, they wanted to ride out in the hayfield. So they got on my wagon and rode the hayfield. And Mo told Lenore Sunday, said, y'all come over the next Sunday and eat ice cream. In the meantime, Stanley Kirkland done a date with Lenore to take her out that Saturday night. So I told Stanley just to be a guy in him that I had a date with Lenore, and he said, well, he had one too. So we started out to Livermore and with his buggy, and he had his top back, so I stuck out following him, you know.
Every once in a while he'd look around, see Joe still
Yeah,
coming.
see, I was still coming. Now, when we got on the Forks of Road there, coming towards Hicks's, he looked around, so I was following him again. And so, got over where Mr. George Williams lived. Well, John Leslie had a buggy then, and the buggy was in front of Mr. Williams' house there. And he was in the house, and that girl sitting out in the buggy. So I pulled in there then. I was kind of figuring on going down and see if I couldn't find her that evening. But I thought
But he
maybe
wanted to carry that
I'd go over
forward
there and I'd go over there and maybe Bertie would, if she wasn't always gone, would know something about her, you know, and I'd turn around and go somewhere else. So I pulled in there and I Stanley, he was relieved then I didn't fall in the Dixie.
He thought he really was going.
And of course, she was right ready to get in the buggy with me, you know. And that's where it started at.
And that's where it ended today.
But I'll tell you another, they had a ice cream supper down in Richmond.
Well, I'm going to finish up on that though a little bit.
Well, that's,
See, I was going to ride with John and Bertie to that party. And Bertie wanted me to go with him. She always wanted me to go. It didn't make a difference if I went all the time. But John really didn't, you know. So when Joe come in there, well, I was relieved because I didn't have to push myself on them to go. And he was relieved because he found me, you see. And it was the prettiest moonlight night you ever saw. You can see just everywhere.
we went to Wilson's to the,
And we took to a play party to Wilson's over here above Douglas, where we went that time.
anyway, there was another play for it, same night over here at Tyler Stratton's. And Stanley Kirkland and Nora went to Tyler, says, so we didn't get to see him at this part of our week.
And the next day then, when he was supposed to go to Maltese to eat ice cream, but he didn't ever show up. He came and took me went to Calhoun to a singing convention the next day in the buggy on Sunday afternoon, all the way to Calhoun.
Have them singing every fifth Sunday. And
That's right.
They'd have, well, the old Baptist churches, they didn't have no services on fifth Sunday, a lot of them didn't.
And you were telling about too how it was so dark some nights, and the buggy, you couldn't see even the horse in front of the buggy.
When he'd come and get me sometimes to come up to his house and listen to the radio. Nobody hardly had a radio then. And he'd come all the way down there, but you know where it is, way down the Bristol Road,
15 miles.
where I live. He'd come all the way down there, and we'd drive on up here to listen to the radio a while. And as we went back, we went through down here by Orville Hicks's. That was the nearest way to go.
Went through the field, didn't go down.
And this was just a little road, like they went back to the field to work. But when you going this way to the ditch, well, you turn sharp this way,
To go on
and
with-
then you turn sharp across the bridge. No banisters on that bridge, whatever. It was just planks. And it would be so dark that we couldn't tell the shape of the horse out in front of us in that buggy. And that horse would turn that corner, go across that bridge, and never miss a...
You wouldn't know you was on the bridge till you hear her feet hitting it.
Yeah,
We'd hear her feet.
Was that the road between Orville and Shirley's house now?
yeah.
Yeah, I remember the way that road turned there. To
But
go to that.
back to him going to the singing convention, and I guess he came every week after that then, until we married. But that's
Oh,
how,
was it fourth Sunday in July?
And about how long was it then before you
Fifteen.
married?
well,
It was 2 years and a half after that.
I was 15 then. And then I was almost 18 when we married, still like this, about 2 weeks been 18.
It would have been 2 years in July. Was that it or 3?
3.
It would have been 3 years. Pretty good courtship.
Well, he had to wait for me to grow up a little bit.
You couldn't rob the cradle, now.
Picked you out and let you grow up.
Meantime, she had other boyfriends, you know, for our first
Don't you bring
story.
one?
I remember he's gonna take it.
Before I got to going with a study. And,
That was through the week.
and I'd go up places
Anytime.
expect to see her, and she, of course, she'd have something I wouldn't root in. She'd have some other boy.
Yeah, that's what we started going with.
They had a ice cream supper down at Whistler House down there, and of course,
I hate you to tell that.
Just the facts, Mom.
George Brown, I didn't want people to know that I found out what the partner or a number or pile was. They wouldn't, girls wouldn't tell
It was
you
a
what.
box on, it was a box supper.
And so I had George Brown to buy this pie. And she had a boyfriend there that night. And she come around, and when we got ready to eat the pie, well, she had him to come and eat with us.
I didn't want him to buy it, I wanted the other guy. Who was it? I'm not gonna tell you.
Old must be her daddy.
Now, who was it? We haven't heard that name.
Clarence Gilmore.
Oh,
You heard of Lawrence Gilmore, haven't you?
yeah,
Well, it's his twin brother.
Clarence Gilmore.
Did he stutter too?
No,
Twins, they all study.
Well, you went
Most
with
of us.
Glenn's son too, when was that?
Oh, he was my school sweetheart.
And she told her daddy that when she was going home that night, of course, I wanted to ask her, after she would had that boy to eat with her, I wouldn't ask her to take her home.
He got to come in.
No, I don't blame
She
you.
Well, I don't
just,
either.
she was just telling me that night how good he was and said he has drank some, but he said he's quit, he's not gonna drink anymore, you know, and everything. Yeah.
Well, Dad said, he sat me down one night and he said, Aunt Pearl, just stop and realize how much older he is than you. So, well, he's old enough to be your father. And he said, I like the guy all right, but he's just too old for you. Of course, I couldn't see that. And the man told his sister-in-law that he was going back to Henderson County. The only reason he was leaving was because he's thinking too much of me and I was him and I was just too young. And that's the only way he thought he could break it up is go back to Henderson County where he used to live. That's what he did. He's been dead for years, so.
How much older was he?
Oh, I guess he's 15 years older.
So he was 30.
And that song would be pretty true then, in this case, I'll bet. Thank God for unanswered prayers.
And of course, I'm just, as he said, flirty. And I was always having a boyfriend somewhere. And I came home, I went to my aunt's over to Mug and stayed with her a while and helped her cook. And she kept boarders. And of course, I just thought that was neat to get away from the farm. And she had a boarder stand there that I just fell for head over heels. And he really seemed to like me too. And when I left to come home, he wrote a letter for me to read after I got on the train to come home. Of course, I got home when Joe was so happy I got back, and he met me. And then I began to tell him about this boy, you know, and what he had
Keep your
written.
mouth shut.
No, what he had written to me. Of course, that was on Saturday night, and he didn't seem too blue all the rest of the time he was there. He went on that night and he was so hurt he cried. Didn't even get out of his buggy. He stayed in the buggy all night.
Oh, I took the horse out.
You said you stayed in the buggy though. Anyway,
You unhooked a horse, Mom.
next morning,
Didn't mistreat the horse.
No, I didn't do it.
next morning, he was coming in the house and Mom was going out to milk and she wanted to know something about
Where you been?
where he'd been. He said he slept in the buggy. So then he came down that Sunday afternoon. He was so disturbed. He just thought he'd lost me for good. Look how he's been stuck with me 60 years.
No, 62 and a half years.
Well, whatever happened to that guy?
And what was his name?
Well, I didn't. Carl Brown. I didn't go back over there. And he wrote such a nice letter. He said he thought a lot of me, but yet he knew that he did. He was my boyfriend, and he said, I'm just going to pray that the one with the divine hands will bring things out right. Said, I'd love to have you, but, you know, I'm going to pray that the one with the divine hand will bring things out right. So that's just what happened.
He must be a pretty fine man.
He was. He was really.
What did you say his name was?
Carl Bryant.
Never heard of him.
Okay, you were going to go on with some more dating when we interrupted way back, Daddy.
Yeah, when did he ask you to marry him, Dad? When did you ask Mom to marry you?
I did take Eva Williams home from over at Perkins before I started going with her one time.
Do you remember where you were when you asked me to marry you?
That's too silly.
He's in the buggy going along the road down there almost to what we used to call the forks of the road. There used to be a wooded area there and the roads crossed there. We always called them the forks. And it was just below that. And he got on his knee in the buggy.
Just the way it's supposed to be.
Boy, I didn't even know
See,
that.
Well, then did he go and ask,
I'd go see her.
Yes, sir. He went and asked Pappy too.
I'd go to see her and John Lester go over to the Burke, you know. We'd meet along there about the Forest Road. He'd be coming home, I'd be going. And I'd hear him coming, boy, he'd have his horse in a long run.
He was scared to
He was
death.
scared to get to go around that Forest Road. And I know to pull over that dog over the ditch or he'd run over.
That's what makes drivers today. It doesn't seem like too much has changed.
horsepower, though.
And you know, when I went to Richardson Church and he'd take me home, we didn't hardly have time to get the seat warm till I was home.
That's right. Around the corner.
Well, tell
And
me
of
when
course,
you,
when I have her in a buggy with me, you know, the horse never, she just walks, never trod the horse.
As long as
Did the horse know that, or did you have to tell her?
Huh?
Did the horse know to just walk?
She knows just to walk.
That's what she wanted to do.
And of course, you didn't have to have all those steering wheels, but the lines down there.
Yeah, we got that picture.
how long would it take you to get to Calhoun in the buggy?
About
Oh,
45 minutes.
I probably let the horse trot going down there, you know.
Depends on where he's going down there or coming back.
Of course, you didn't know Bessie Thomas or Sally and Booster.
I did take Bessie home one time, too.
You did.
Yeah.
How they could tease. So this
Yeah, I
very
know Sally
first
would be a teacher.
this very first time we went together and went to Calhoun, it was so dusty, dirt roads all the way. And in July, you mentioned about what they were. When that's the time we met the circus down there.
Oh,
Well, anyway, Booster was going with Sally and Harvey and Bessie. We was all going along in buggies going to that singing convention, and it was so dusty. And where Joe's shirt, like sitting like this, it kind of got a little crevice like there. And I reached up and was brushing that dust off there, and they looked back and saw me. Oh, then they just went on and on about us making love. So all I was doing is brushing some dust off his shirt. Yeah, that's what you say. It just made me so mad I never bore.
yeah, I took a...
Some of y'all didn't take a wagon and all of you go in the same wagon, so driving a buggy.
Save gas.
Would take Bessie along with them, and they went up here, I believe, the old Buck Creek Church, schoolhouse, something up there. And Harvey, he'd go along, but he'd ride a horse. He didn't have no buggy. And I asked Bessie if I could take her home. And she went home with her. I took her home. And the next week, Harvey went out hunting him a buggy. A buggy from Toadwood.
Made him go buy a buggy, didn't
Did any of the young people have cars then?
he?
No,
Well, I know Daddy.
Well,
Dad
now,
had
before
a
we
car.
married, Orville Hicks had a car.
Grover Brown, he got my
That's something
horse and
and
buggy to
respect.
take
Mine too.
take her home, and me and Gorn drove that horse up there, and I rode his horse down his house, and we went down there. They had a gate right down Low Brown's there, where they had to go to get through that gate. And me and Gorn, we went around, got in front of them, hit them, went around there, and boy, we wired that gate up with Bob. Got back up in the bushes and listened out. Of course, Grover, he cussed a lot, but he didn't cuss nothing about them girls. And they stick their hands up on the water in the dark, trying to get that water.
Oh, Daddy, that's terrible.
But Bob Booster was going down to see Sally. Well, Brown boy slipped down there, and there's another gate on down next to Thomas' place. And they slipped down there and wired that gate high. And Booster didn't do a thing in the world, only he turned around and went back around the other way, around the other road and home, and didn't even do it. Miss Thomas, she didn't go out next morning in the buggy, found that gate all wired up. Boy, she really eat them Browns up.
Open bottoms down there, and we had the one at the 4 too. Don't think there was a livestock or nothing down there, but they always kept that one shut too.
Yeah.
I can remember those.
Well, Joe, I think you ought to go back to whenever you bought this farm down here, and you all come out to look at it, and then wherever you got ready to move.
Well,
Yeah, we want to hear about you bringing that wagon load of potatoes down.
You're right.
Well, I'd like to go back a little further. I'd like to hear about whenever they went to that one-room school and Uncle Booster's annex
And they're large
And,
buckets with their.
vaccinations and stuff like that.
And hit him over the head with that train.
well, we went to school back there, and they're supposed to be vaccinated for smallpox. And in the meantime, there's a little girl there in Owensboro with us, twin girls. And they went to church where we did. But them girls were vaccinated, And one of them girls went blind from being vaccinated. And the health nurse was supposed to come out there and doctor the Carrico school. And so the two school teacher heard about this girl going blind. She didn't want to do it, you know. She said, if they come, you see them coming down there, y'all go out the back door over in the woods and hide. And we aimed to do it, but they never did come down there. We aimed to leave that schoolhouse and hide.
Well, tell them about the fire drills.
About what?
About that newfangled teacher that had the fire drill.
Fire drill, you know,
yeah.
which fell in.
As a teacher quit, and she come in there on about February to finish up school, and she's pretty strict on, she taught in some cities all the time, you know, and she wanted to have a fire drill, and she thought she'd have one about every week, you know, and she'd want to stand and march out, you know, and she had Booster to go out. The old schoolhouse on the front side, the front door it's almost walk-in on dirt on it. The back in the schoolhouse was up waist high, wasn't even no steps up to the door back there. And she had Booster to leave the room like he's going to the bathroom or something and go around there and open up, she'll fix that door so she can push it in and holler fire. He went around there, of course he like to scare us to death when he opened that door and hollered fire. And she thought she had them really trained, you know. And boy, they were throwing out that schoolhouse. Didn't even pick up her books or nothing. We were supposed to get up, you know, get our books, have our books all straight and march out, you know, one behind the other.
Leo, can't you find a place to sit?
She never did have no more fire drill.
Daddy, I thought you said this one boy got tangled up in his book
Yeah,
sack.
he did. He had a book sack tied to his desk, and he got his foot in that book sack. Fell down there, and he like never got up to get out.
A real fire drill.
And see, a one-room school, you know, you wouldn't need a fire drill to get out of a one-room school.
Well, they proved how they could get out.
But the schoolhouse did catch on fire one time. There's boys lived over by her. He's always getting there late. Of course, they had a lot of work to do at home, feeding stock and everything. And we was all in there, and one frosty morning, and of course, they had built a big fire in this old stove. And there's a shingle roof on the stove, and there's a place up there about this big around. He come in unconcerned, he seen the fire when he come in, unconcerned, and went to his desk and sat down and says, well, says, the schoolhouse is on fire. They thought, well, he's just, went outside and looked, and there it was. And we lived, wasn't too far, people lived across the field to the house. And we went out there and got to all our books and took them outside and out in the road there and just letting that thing burn. And finally some of them decided, well, they'd go over to this house and get people over, bring a ladder and come over and see if they couldn't put it out. And so they come over there then and got a ladder and went up there and soon put it out. But see, them shingles had that frost on them, they wasn't burning very fast. But it did burn a hole, just so big around.
See, they wanted to burn down, so they didn't have to go to school.
See, the boy, one boy always kept up the fire, you know, on the scooter. He'd get there early, he'd get the fire going, and of the evening he's supposed to bank the fire. He filled the thing up with slack, that gas formed in there, and it just had an old tile, about a 6-inch tile, went out up through the ceiling, up through the roof. And then they had a cap on top, you know, that makes the smoke go out 2 different ways. And so that fire blowed up that night, and up in the attic, it busted that old pipe. And that's how the schoolhouse caught on fire. So it was a couple of days before they get anybody to come down there and get, we had a couple of days.
Till recess.
Recess.
That was about that time you told us about Uncle Tootsie or somebody locking you in the closet. Remember that?
Oh, it was me and Booster and Sis.
They got
Okay,
their
but
sets locked in, one of them little latches.
They had a door knob on the outside, but just a little button lock inside there to keep the knob from coming all the way through, you know. and we got in that closet, and of course Mama couldn't hear us. She
Mom
was
was
working
deaf.
there, and we couldn't get it out. We was all three in there, and of course we was banging the wall door and everything, but we finally managed to open that
Yourselves,
and get out.
how long were you in there?
Maybe 15 or 20 minutes, seemed like longer than that.
Well, was there plenty of air with the door closed, or was it getting short of breath?
No, I don't think it was that.
It was dark.
We have to move it over here. The old house over here had a upstairs, had a hall going downstairs, and a big room on each side, and the same way upstairs. And upstairs had a door out going out on it too, and it's out on the porch. I guess what they figured on doing is make kind of a balcony up there, but they never did do it. Just a roof on that porch. And I don't know how come Teresa didn't do it, but we'd go out there and jump off, but we'd just stand on the edge of the porch and maybe stick her feet over and jump down there. Teresa said, up there one day, she was about 7 or 8 years ago, she said, watch me. She got back against that house and run out there and jumped as far as she could go way out there in the yard. One of them broke her leg, but it didn't hurt her much.
You remember it though,
Yes,
John.
sir. I put the first pie that I made with Eagle brand milk, lemon pie. It was cool, and I put it out on that porch, on that roof to cool. I remember that.
Maybe I know that where Tim got his egg climbing on the house, top of the house.
Well, yes, about those potatoes, when you moved from,
Well, if I was going to start that, I would start a little bit early.
Well, you can
Go
just say
ahead.
about how many potatoes you hauled out there when you was out before time to get Pearl Tanner's thorn.
I guess we had a single wagon bed over half full of potatoes. So we had some late potatoes, we dug them, and so I come out, that was in the fall before we moved that winter, after when we dug the potatoes, and he come out in an old car then, but I drove the wagon and team out there. Booster, he was hauling coal back over in Davis County, and I drove out the wagon and team out there that day, and an old garden there, they had all the garden out of it, and pulled in that garden and dug a hole out there, and there's a lot of crabgrass in the garden, lined that hole with crabgrass, and backed that wagon up to that hole, and rolled the potatoes out in that hole, and then put a bunch of crabgrass over the top of it, and then throw dirt all over and buried it. And so when we moved out here in December, the 8th day of December, well, we was about all potatoes at home then, what we left at home. Because Pat fixed up a place in there with about like a 5-gallon bucket, and stuffed it down in so we get to them potatoes, and we go over there. Oh, see, we moved over in the house over where William C. Carter lived, because we couldn't get possession to our house after the first year. And
What year was it then, Joe? What year was that?
23.
23. And we'd, every little bit, of course, there's 8 of us, and it took a whole lot of potatoes. Potatoes about all we had. Of course, we had other stuff too, but anyway. And we'd have to go over and before that summer was gone, before we had new potatoes come in, we was buying potatoes from Earl Tanner.
so you'd eaten that whole wagon of potatoes?
You always knew what was for supper at the Shultz's. They boiled potatoes in the jacket at dinner, and the potatoes they cooked some other way at noon with beans, whatever. They'd all be eaten up. And they had a great big old black skillet. It was about that big around. And they'd peel those potatoes and fry them. You knew that was sliced, but you knew that was what was for supper.
And Mom always
And
made...
no, they don't taste the same any other way you fix them.
Mom always made light bread. She'd make biscuits for breakfast, and then cornbread for dinner. And she had this big old pan would hold 4 loaves of bread, 4, just in each corner, a loaf in each corner. And then lots of times she'd have maybe a little loaf left. She couldn't make it just come out just right. And she'd break out the bread, and when she'd get that little loaf, she'd break it about the middle of the evening. And when a little loaf was done, us kids would eat that with butter on it till hot. But in the supper, we'd had 2 loaves of bread for supper. Next day, we had the other 2 loaves.
Every other day.
And she made her own yeast, you know, out of potatoes, and she'd have some left over every day to leave.
For the starter.
Make new bread with.
Make yeast out of potatoes, I didn't even know that.
And them potatoes, they go around, helping each one, you know, the bowl would be empty when they went around.
They knew to get their part right then because they wasn't going to get it the next time.
And we always liked stuff pretty hot. And Aunt Pearl was over there after we married, and what's the beef you had?
We fixed a beef sandwich.
Fixed a beef sandwich, had some boiled beef,
Hot ketchup.
and had some hot cracked tomato, made a ketchup.
No, it was ground. It was
Ground.
ground up.
Green ketchup in it. And she asked sis, says, is it too hot? Is it very hot? She said, oh, no, just right.
You're right, Rosie,
She
say that.
punched it on her sandwich, took a bite of it. and
Run
she-
to the water bucket.
She run to the water.
Just hear Aunt Rosie say, just right.
Yeah.
But what about thundering one night you were sitting over?
Oh, yeah, Uncle Booster upstairs.
Oh, Butcher turned over, you remember? We was up there one night listening to the radio. I guess he wasn't down with Sally's. And he'd gone to bed, and he turns over there. I said, listen, wasn't that thunder?
You're not supposed to laugh, not supposed to jiggle when you laugh.
I can't help it.
It was the great big old house, you know.
Give me a
high
tripod.
ceiling. Him and Joe used to fight something terrible in the bed. Joe would just wish he had a barbed wire fence down the center of the bed so Booster couldn't, if he went to crowd him, you know, he'd get that barbed wire. And what did he do so loud to make you jump?
Oh, I like when I come in at night.
Oh, it was Daddy would do it to him.
Butcher couldn't get in before I did at night. He'd come in whistling. And he'd whistle the top of his voice before he'd
To get him away.
before he'd come to bed.
And then how would you scare him then?
Daddy would get to bed and get real still, and Daddy would jump real big and just scare him and move to death.
Then you sat over here.
Boy, he'd jump on me.
Well,
That's somebody else.
No, it's Leo over
and
there.
you said, you dream still yet, that when you and Booster were little, sleeping in bed at night.
Still,
Yeah.
still,
Oh, yeah.
about him and Booster so much.
We thought a lot of each other too.
Well, sure.
I told Lucille we started to do this, and she just tickled to death. She says, I just can't wait to see the tape and hear it.
Well, now, let's see, you all married at KJ Meyer's house. When did you buy the farm over here? How much?
Before we married. He
Before we
bought in
married.
Well,
December.
see, Larry Jones lived there, and I could want a place to farm another year. And so Howard Whitaker had the farm. And so I went down there to see him, and he said, well, says, it's going to be kind of hard. Says, I'd love for you to have it. It's going to be kind of hard to tell him to move. And of course, he knowed we had a tractor and stuff like that. Could make a better job farming than Leverett was. But he said, how about just selling it to you?
Oh, you was wanting to rent it, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he got to tell me what he wanted for it and everything. It was $1,800 against it in the for the line back loan. And he said if you take the loan over and give him $1,000, I guess he could be mine.
So $2,800.
$2,800.
And so I've done it, and I'm gonna give him $200, and that left us $800 owing. And about that time, when the depression come on, and there wasn't no way already, and he said, we told him, I said, well, I just don't, he make, give you that money. And but I said, give him 6% interest. And he says, go ahead and pay the land loan and your taxes. And I said,
Just
I'll
forget about me.
get about me for a few years to get it straightened out. And so in the meantime, he wanted this money. And he went with me over to see if we couldn't double that loan, but they wouldn't owe no more money on it.
Oh, everything was so tight then.
And so I went over with him. I mean, let's see.
You decided to take the horse?
Yeah, I seemed like I paid him maybe $200, maybe I owed him about $400 or $500. And one year I made a pretty good crop and had an extra horse and an extra cow. And I asked him if he'd take them in on it. And he said he would. But anyway, there's a dairy down in Calhoun. This is a half Jersey and a half Holstein cow, and she was a good milk cow. And he said, I told him, well, I wanted $80 for that cow, and I wanted to, he was going to allow me $125 for that horse. He was going to have a colt. I just swapped that horse for some of the colts I had there for her. And I know she's going to have a colt, and I wouldn't try to work her because I was afraid she'd lose the colt. And I didn't think she'd ever been worked. But she was gentle enough you could lead her and stuff like that. So I let him have that horse and that cow, and he sold that cow to that dairyman down there, and I seen that dairyman evolve afterwards, and I told him what she'd given. He said, you didn't, see, he told me, he said, you didn't tell the truth about that cow. I said, what's the matter with her? He said, well, she's given a whole lot more milk than you said she would. See, that dairyman come speaking like he's feeding his dairy cows, and said she'd given a whole lot more milk than you said she would.
He's ready to have another one like that.
How many acres was in the home place?
100 acres.
Well, now, did that finish paying it off? What you
Yeah,
owed
I
to,
finished
what
paying
is that?
$28 an acre.
And I did let me out some hogs too at that time.
I didn't remember that.
I had 8 hogs fattening. But I think I could have got more on the hogs than he gave me for it. I asked him afterwards, how much money did you lose on them hogs? He said, well, I didn't lose none, but he didn't tell me how much he made.
And Joe had two sows, I believe, at that time. But anyway, he would try to have a bunch of pigs to fatten and ready to sell twice a year. Twice a year we paid that land bank note. It was so much interest and a little bit on the principal. And I believe I'd be safe in saying that we pay that every time with a bunch of hogs. I don't believe we just missed 2 or 3. Do you? He would manage to breed the sows so that the hogs would be ready to sell at the time those notes come due.
I know I had,
And that's how
I had 8 hogs there, and his team horses up ahead, and put them in a wagon. Me and Pep take to Owensburg, wait. And so we started out real early in the morning.
about midnight.
And what was it, 2.5 cents a pound I got them hogs?
The hogs weighed exactly 200 pounds. They brought $6. $6 a piece.
And
The 8 hogs was $48.
my horses was barefooted, and they just didn't make the trip to Owensburg. And I had to go to the blacksmith shop and have them horses shod. It cost $5 to get them horses shod before I could get back home.
He knew that
Put on.
Howard Whitaker, or not Howard Whitaker,
These times pretty tough then too, weren't they?
I Gervin and Quig, no, what was his name? Howard, wasn't it?
Johnny Hart.
Johnny Howard was hauling stuff at that time. But in Newtown, he paid somebody for the truck to haul them. They just wouldn't leave much. And there was the prettiest bunch of hogs, just the same size, and just, you know, the hair was so good. He said, well, he's just going to take that, put the sideboards on it, and put a top on it. I said,
Leo, if you want to drive, we can take Linda home.
I can walk on.
But there's be lots of transportation for her if you
Well, I
want.
got a lot of things to take, though.
Okay. Your granddaddy come from Germany?
That's father.
Yeah.
What year
And mother,
was-
too.
What year was that?
Grandmother, too.
I don't know.
They were grown when they came.
They didn't marry till like they had never met until like they got over here.
And see, Uncle Charlie was see, Aunt Mary was the oldest, and Uncle Charlie was next, and Pap was next, and they was very smart different in their age. But when Pap was born on the old place that we had on the leftover, after they moved there, but the other two kids was born before they both that place down there. They had a one-room log cabin when they moved there, and it had a dirt floor. And then after Pep, he's up. I think he had a pair of oxen and maybe a horse too, and that's all they had, you know. And they'd cut wood and take it to Owensboro and sell it. And I believe they had 25 acres of ground when they bought there. Of course, there was a while getting that paid for. But anyway, in the meantime, they got a hold of some money and bought 3 houses in Owensboro. And Mom and them, they lived over not too far from her. And her daddy died before she was born. And they had a big family, but it wasn't hard to make nothing on that farm. And so they sold the farm and moved in one of these houses in Owensboro with my dad, my granddaddy. And that's how I got acquainted with mother, because they moved in the house.
The Murphys. How did they get to Owensboro? What made them decide? Do you have any idea why they came to?
No, I heard Aunt Mary said that they lived in above Owensboro before they bought this place down there. But I don't know how come to get to Owensboro.
Do you have any idea the name of the boat or what county they lived in Germany, what part of Germany?
Worms, Germany.
Yeah, hold it.
Germany.
Is it said with a B and it's a W?
Yes, it's pronounced with a V. Pronounced with a V. I looked it up on an old map one time, and it is in the southeastern part of Germany. And there's another town where Mother's people came from that somebody told me what it was, and I forgot what
The
it was.
Ridenauers?
The Ridenauers, or some of them came from. And it was not but about 30 or maybe 50 miles away. It was all the same area of Germany.
I hate that time when Brenda went to Ireland that she didn't know more about where Mom's people, Joe's
County Court.
mother's people
We were
came
in
from.
County Court too. We stayed with some Murphys.
The one that Aunt Rosie has told about is about the young lady that came over and landed in New Orleans, and all about this plantation owner that paid for her education and all. And
Well, I don't know.
I remember that.
I do.
Well, she's told me, and I wish I had more of it down. Do you know anything about it, Daddy?
No, I don't.
He said Aunt Rosie said she was a very beautiful girl, and she was young. She was like 12 or 13 when she came into New Orleans, and she was supposed to be coming on up into this area, but this plantation owner, someone down there, saw her and just was amazed at her beauty, and he kind of wanted her, but he wanted her educated, and so he paid for her education, and then she didn't ever marry him, like Aunt Rosie said.
And who was she though?
She was a relative. She
One of
was,
our, okay. Our ancestors. Murphy, on that side.
Okay, Ryan, maybe? Or in that, further back from the Murphy.
I always have said that if anybody could get on that boat to leave over, they're bound to have a little something that just a little bit ahead of most of the people was over there
To be able to get
to be
there.
able to get over here.
Well, Aunt Rosie used to tell me that Granddad's mother and dad were very industrious, that they did everything there was to do for the people in Owensboro. Like they cleaned for the Jewish community is the one they catered to the most, I think. And wasn't it Mom Shultz she was the one that would knit the stockings for the Jewish ladies? And she would knit a stocking a night.
Right. Grandma
And she wanted to turn the heel. I guess did she come up from the toe? Yeah, they come up from the toe. She would want to turn the heel before it got too dark. to
So
see you to turn the hill, and then she'd go the rest of the way by the light of the
Oh,
fire.
dim
I
light.
remember
From the
Grandma
hill.
Shultz was a very working woman, a good manager.
And they
Well,
made
she-
wine and everything like that too.
Daddy, you was telling some, I've heard this story, but I can't remember how it was, about Uncle Keno putting a knitting needle or something in Tracy's hand or something. What was that?
You lost me.
Yeah, I've heard Aunt Tracy mention
Well, I
that.
think he told her to move her hand or something, and she didn't. And so he put the crochet needle or
Well,
something
she told me
back
she
her
had
hand.
stomach upset.
She, Mom said that Grandma Shultz would come to their house before she ever married Pat, and come up there, and she didn't have no sewing machine. And some of her sewing, she had to be sewed on sewing machine. She'd come in there and get them to sew it, you know. And they had an old cow that was an extra good cow. And said an old lady would come in there, tell them about the old cow before she'd get the door shut.
Daddy, do you remember the year that your father was born?
Hmm?
The year that your father was born, what was that? What year did your dad?
Oh, what was it, 70 something? Or 60?
Yeah, it was, because my dad was born in 81, he was born in 71.
And your
1871.
and your mother?
Well,
Mother was about, I guess she was about 7 or 8 years younger than Dad.
Well, what about your little brothers that died? Their names and who were they
Well, his
between?
name was
And
Frankie,
Named
was,
both of them.
and both of them name was Frankie. She had Booster was the oldest, Frankie first. He died young. He wasn't a year.
he was between you and Uncle Booster?
He wasn't a year old. And then the other one was between me and Sis. And he was over 2 years old when
you
he
must be
died.
mistaken between you and Sis, because it's only 16 months difference in you and
Oh,
Sis.
between Sis and Tootsie. And he was over 2 years old. And you don't know how it made me feel to know that I had 2 brothers dead, and I didn't think I would live too long, you know.
I know he's going to be that before.
And I remember that little boy being laid out there, and they put nickels over his eyes to make his eyes stay shut. And I could see them, the lady down below there, the undertaker wouldn't come there for a while, but she laid him, helped lay him out, you know, they laid him out on the bed, and put his clothes on, what he's going to be buried in, and put nickels over his eyes. And I remember they had the hearse come there, and we rode in the hearse, and in the hacks, what people rode in, and took the little boy in the hearse and took him over to Catholic Cemetery at Owensboro and buried him.
And now how old was the
Yeah.
second one?
Uncle Dick, he drove our horse and buggy up there so we could have the buggy to come back home. See, the hearse and hack stayed in Owensboro.
Well, he was something over 2 years old, the younger one that died, because Joe said he remembered him falling on behind the wagon, you know.
I know Daddy was
I know he
always
got lost.
concerned.
His help was from up at a farm we called Brackenridge up there. Help was hauling some manure up there. And Frankie was following along behind that wagon wanting to go with Pap. He didn't know it. And went down, got out in the little holler there, and he cried and stopped and went to sleep. And we found him down there asleep.
Joe said he thought afterwards that he must have had some kind of spells or something. That's what caused him to go to sleep.
Oh. Well, I guess Granny decided she wasn't going to name him more Frankie after
Well,
those two.
she'd always heard if you named one Frankie, the boy that wouldn't be named after Dad, you know. There wouldn't be no more boys.
Oh.
And so then she,
Girls.
she
Where's Jeanette, Dave?
She's downstairs taking it.
but I know she told a lady there, a Magdalene woman there, she had some kids, and her husband's name was John. She had 2 boys and 2 girls, and then the next one was a boy. She called him John. She didn't the last boy she had. And she had about 6 girls then after that. And Mom told her, said, you name one of them girls after you. Her name was Flora. And she named a girl after her, then that was the last child she had.
Well, if that was the case, you all wouldn't have had any more after Joanna.
We thought we already had it, and they were after both of them.
That's it. You were done.
Daddy, you don't actually know the cause of the death of either one of those boys?
You always kind of thought
They
second
always
summer.
thought the second boy, it used to be when a kid gets about 2 years old, they called that the second summer. And they had bowel trouble and stuff like that the second summer.
Daddy was always concerned with us kids and the grandkids for second summers.
Well, all the older people did. They always said the child's second summer was a critical time because he would usually be too old to be on the breast, you know. And they start eating, they eat food that didn't agree with them. And so many times that infants died at that age.
Of course.
Mom didn't have no milk and raised all of us on the bottle.
Yeah, all of Daddy's brothers and sisters were bottle babies.
Of course, they didn't have the formulas like they have now for the babies.
When Joanna was born, Mom Shultz just thought it was so odd and so good that Joanna was warm all the time. She'd pick her up, she'd always be warm. She said my babies were always cold. Their flesh felt cold.
There's an old lady that stayed there with Mom with someone long about time. Sister Disparrow didn't make it. She was just really delicate. And this old woman told Mom, she says, I don't like to hold that baby. And Mom didn't know her for a long time. As she just got better, she said she felt just like I was holding a dead person.
Well, I remember her saying that
I never heard
Rosie
that.
was so near gone that you could see her entrails through the skin of her stomach.
And when Chrissy was born, well, Papa always had shorthorn cows. And they told about goat milk, and he tried to, fell over, had some goats, and he tried to get some goat milk, but he never did get much. They tried it. Seemed me like he milked the horse, give her some horse milk. But there's nothing for her to agree with. And so when Tracy was born, we got a Jersey cow. And she didn't have any less trouble with her than did in the rest of them.
Well,
Got
Tracy,
Jersey milk. That old cow had a calf just, I believe the same day Tracy was born.
Tracy would tell about this pitcher that she still uses. She kept salt in it. And she said that pitcher was the amount of milk she drank a day. That was her pitcher, you know.
Well,
when
Mom,
she was a baby, that was her milk.
Mom we never did drink no whole milk. We always drank skim milk, mostly buttermilk. But Mom would strain out a pitcher for her whole milk and give her a whole
That
milk.
was
Of course,
her
she'd give
pitcher.
the other babies that too, but she never would give the babies, would never give any of the rest of us whole milk.
Well, and you know, today, they're saying that the modern mothers are using skim milk for the babies, and they should not. That small babies small children up past 2 years need whole milk.
Yeah.
And that cholesterol that's in it is really a necessity part of that young
Well, I kind of agree.
child's life.
Later, Whitney's skinny.